This is a house of horrors. They're all comic book villains. They all knew, and the government is still claiming they were no clients.
The New York Times has detailed the disturbing things found in Jeffrey Epstein's massive Manhattan home, which is described as a 7-story palatial townhouse in Manhattan. Now, the townhouse was one of 5 properties that Epstein owned, and we still don't know how the pedo college dropout became so damn wealthy. That's still a mystery. But after his release in 2009 from a Florida jail, where he served 13 months for soliciting prostitution from a teenager, the mansion served as both a personal hideaway and a salon where he could hold court with accomplished intellectuals, scientists, and financiers, according to legal records and interviews with people who frequented the home. So one of the things that was found were letters that were written to him for his birthday, his 63rd birthday to be specific. And the Trump drawing that the Wall Street Journal had written about, that was apparently part of the birthday letters that were sent to Epstein for his 50th birthday. So this is a different set of letters for a different birthday of Epstein's, his 63rd. One of the letters came from former Israeli prime minister, who seemed to be very close to Epstein, suspiciously close. Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel, and his wife noted the great diversity of guests in their letter to Epstein. Quote, "There is no limit to your curiosity," they wrote in their message, which was compiled with others in January of 2016. "You are like a closed book to many of them, but you know everything about everyone."
Why did they write this stuff down? Isn't that amazing? I mean, this is now the 2nd or 3rd story we've covered where these powerful people are like, oh, including Donald Trump, oh, we know you like them young and you have all the secrets, just please don't tell it. Why are you writing it down? It's amazing.
So Epstein preserved a map of Israel drawn on a chalkboard with Mr. Barak's signature, according to a photo reviewed by the New York Times. More on that in just a moment.
Oh yeah, no, don't say it, don't say it. It's definitely not Israel. It's definitely not, I mean, he has a map of Israel in there. No, but it's not Israel, okay.
I would bet money it's Israel. In their typed letter, Barak and his wife hailed Epstein as a collector of people.
Ugh.
Who says that? Like what does that mean exactly? But there's more. So just quickly going back to the map of Israel drawn on a chalkboard with Barak's signature, there were other things found. So in 2021, Vanity Fair had a fantastic piece detailing other things about Epstein, but more importantly, that Epstein invested $1 million in one of Barak's business ventures. Barak reportedly visited the East 66th Street condo building. Alan Dershowitz said he once arrived at Epstein's townhouse as Epstein and Barak were wrapping up lunch. On a chalkboard, Barak had drawn a map of how the West Bank should be divided.
But it's definitely not Israel. It can't be Israel. The prime minister is telling Epstein how they're going to divide the West Bank because, but unrelated to that, he says, way to go, you have secrets of everyone wrapped up.
Yeah, it was a blackmail operation, if you ask me. That's my personal opinion, and there's just more and more circumstantial evidence that bolsters that opinion. As far as evidence bolstering the claim that Epstein was an intelligence asset who was running a blackmail operation, several of Epstein's victims have said the mansion was outfitted with a network of hidden video cameras. Why would you have hidden video cameras in this property in which young girls are being assaulted and raped? Like, what would the point of those secret cameras be? Okay, so guys, there's things we don't know and things we do know. And mainstream media at large usually calls everything conspiracy theories. So, but then sometimes they do good work and we find out interesting stories from them, okay? So credit where credit's. Okay, so we don't know who the blackmail was for. So it could be CIA, it could be Mossad, it could be just, it could be both. It could just be Epstein. It could just be Epstein and Maxwell, right? All those are possible. What we do know, if you're a sentient human being, is that there was a blackmail operation. Because think about it, you're gonna record people getting illegal sex with underage girls. Why would you do that? Because that would be evidence against you as well.
right? Because you're running the operation. Who records like hundreds of hours of evidence against themselves? The only reason you do that is to be able to say to those guys, I have you on tape, now you gotta do what I tell you. Anyone who says otherwise is either really super dense, like wear helmet indoors kind of dense, or is purposely lying to you and saying, oh no, don't look, we don't know if it's a blackmail. It's definitely a blackmail operation.
So there were other birthday letters for Epstein's 63rd birthday. So the director Woody Allen described how the dinners reminded him of Dracula's castle, where Lugosi has 3 young female vampires who service the place.
They're just saying it.
Bro.
They're saying it over and over again. A vampire that sucks the life out of people and likes young girls around them. They all knew, and the government is still claiming there were no clients.
But here's my favorite part of all of this, because Epstein's gone. If you might believe that he took his own life, you might think that he was murdered, but there are people who are living today who had close contact with him, including Steve Bannon, who has said that he videotaped hours of interviews in the mansion with Epstein in 2019. Framed photos of Bannon, including a mirror selfie snapped by Epstein, were kept in at least 2 rooms in the mansion. So Bannon has said on the record that he thinks the Epstein files should be released. And Bannon, if you genuinely think that, how about you release your files?
Yeah, wait a minute. Why don't we have Bannon's tapes?
Interviews? What happened?
No, that's insanity. Why don't we have Bannon's tapes? Mr. I'm gonna take down the establishment. I'm a populist. Oh yeah. Well, by the way, we should have an authoritarian leader. Wait, what? Okay. Oh, democracy is not that big a deal. Okay, let's just. Hey, brother. Yeah. All your BS about populism. Where's the goddamn tapes?
Yeah, let's see.
Where's the goddamn tapes? Why don't you show them what's in the tapes that you don't want to? Okay, guys, think about it. Even if you're hardcore MAGA and you love Bannon and Trump, okay? If he has interesting information on the tapes, why wouldn't Bannon release them?
That's exactly right.
Okay, the only reason, even if it was mildly interesting, he does a show, he wants more people to watch, he wants more attention. Even if it's like relatively dull, you would release them, right? Oh, I have Epstein tapes, everybody would come watch. Literally the entire internet would come watch, right? The only reason not to release them is if it has incriminating evidence against Steve Bannon or his allies. Donald Trump.
Why were there photos of Bannon in not 1, but 2 separate rooms in this property? Why? Anyway, all right, well that's, those are the birthday letters, those are the various, public figures who are kind of implicated in what was found in this property. But there was also creepy stuff found on the property as well. Dozens of framed prosthetic eyeballs lined the entryway. A sculpture of a woman wearing a bridal gown and clutching a rope was suspended in a central atrium. Now the photo, we can't use the photo, we don't have permission to do so, but if you go to the New York Times piece, they have the photos available for you to look at. We'll include a link in the description box for anyone who's interested. Now in the office, according to photos reviewed by the Times, Epstein showcased a green first edition of Lolita, the 1955 novel in which an intellectual develops a sexual obsession with a 12-year-old girl and repeatedly rapes her. By the way, all of these, let me just ask you something. All of these powerful people are hobnobbing with Jeffrey Epstein, scientists, financiers, all these people, and they see all of this like disturbing stuff in this property, and they didn't know that this guy was a creep. They didn't know, like, you didn't ask any questions. The Lolita book didn't make you consider the red flags here?
Well, I mean, they did.
Like Bill, I'm sorry, but Bill Clinton hanging out with this guy as much as he did, he didn't know.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go further than that. Hold on. So first of all, this is a house of horrors. Like, what's with the eyeballs? That's insanity. And I saw the picture. It's super creepy, like statue mannequin of a bride hanging for dear life on a rope. in the central atrium, you walk into the house, and the creepiest thing you've ever seen is in the middle of a young girl in despair. There's eyeballs everywhere. There's a glorious map of Greater Israel, right? There's the original. Look, you're an intellectual. You read Lolita, no big deal. That's normal, right? You went and bought an original version of the 1955 version of Lolita. When everyone knows that you were prosecuted already for being with underage girls. Come on. But Anna, did they know? Well, they obviously all knew because they wrote it down. They're like, oh yes, and you are with young girls. Donald Trump said, everybody knows Jeffrey Epstein likes them young. Like what? Like they're all comic book villains.
I know, it's crazy. Now, I want to get to Les Wexner, okay? So the New York Times claims that Epstein bought the townhouse from billionaire Les Wexner, who owns L Brands, by the way, which includes Victoria's Secret. But Epstein's relationship with Wexner is super suspicious. It's been reported that the property was actually given to him, not sold to him, and the transaction was for $1. Vanity Fair claims, the New York Times claims, no, there's documentation showing that Epstein bought the property for $20 million. I don't know what to believe, but what I do know is that Epstein did have a weird relationship with Les Wexner. Wexner met Epstein sometime around 1986 after they were introduced by Wexner's insurance mogul friend, guy by the name of Robert Meister, whose firm handled insurance for the Limited. And then after Epstein died, Wexner seemed to claim that Epstein had stolen money from him, but never reported it to the FBI, which was strange. And Wexner even gave Epstein his mother Bella's seat on the board of the Wexner Foundation, and in fact, gave Epstein complete control of his estate, power of attorney in general, not like limited power of attorney or power of attorney over some of Wexner's finances. No, complete power of attorney. That is insane. No one does that. Billionaires don't do that. No one does that. Now, it gets worse. So, former security chief for the Limited, Jerry Merritt, recalled once asking Wexner why Epstein was so well compensated. Les just said, because I got more money than I can ever spend, said Merritt. Les gave him free reign over his checkbook. In 2019, the Wall Street Journal reported Epstein earned $200 million from Wexner. Merritt puts the number at 400 million, okay? So, and for those really hoping that Epstein wasn't tied to Mossad in any way, shape, or form, you gotta admit that the guy did have some pretty close ties to a lot of Zionists. So for instance, in 1991, Wexner co-founded a philanthropic organization of Jewish billionaires known as the Mega Group, which uses some of its vast resources to shape Middle East policy. In 2003, Wexner's foundation commissioned GOP messaging guru Frank Luntz to advise American Jewish leaders, or advise American Jewish leaders on how to rally support for Israel. For a solid year, you should be invoking the name of Saddam Hussein and how Israel was always behind American efforts to rid the world of this ruthless dictator and liberate their people, Luntz's recommendation stated.
So, if you would like to start a war for Israel, what you should do is overwhelming propaganda starting in 2021 all the way to when we invade in 2023, and have all of your dogs in government and media say Saddam Hussein, Saddam Hussein, Saddam Hussein. And even though Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11, and they know that, Saddam Hussein was against Al-Qaeda and would murder Al-Qaeda inside his country, okay? So, but at the time, the Israeli government said Iraq was their #1 enemy. Who do they say is their #1 enemy now? Iran. Oh, we just bought Iran. Interesting. So guys, there's only 2 possibilities on Wexner. There's not a third. So one is Epstein had something on him and went to Wexner and said, you have infinite money, you're gonna give me half of it. And Wexner was like, no way, or 2/3 of whatever, no way. He's like, all right, or you're gonna spend the rest of your life in prison. Which one do you want? All that money's gonna go to waste. You're gonna go to prison, you're gonna be humiliated, etc. So give me everything I want. That is possibility #1. Which, by the way, then actually is, to some degree, if that's true, that means that maybe it's not necessarily an intelligence agency. Maybe he just got the money from Wexner, right? By blackmailing him personally. That's possible, it's definitely possible, right? So possibility #2 is this is how Mossad funneled money to Epstein by getting super friendly, pro-Israel, AIPAC supporting Americans to go, oh, I need Epstein to run my money. Oh, look, he took all hundreds of millions of dollars. And look, everyone that went to his place that are super rich and powerful are now on tape doing terrible illegal things. Oh, golly gee, I guess that's how it happened, right? And I don't know which one is true, but I can't even conceive of a third option. The Wexner explanation. I really like the guy.
Yeah, seriously.
At one point, Wexner was the 6th richest man in the world. People don't get to be the richest man in the world or anywhere near that list by going, oh, I will give you my checkbook. You do whatever you like with it. Said almost no rich person ever, okay, in a situation like that. And remember, Epstein's a college dropout. He has no expertise at all. And in fact, the Vanity Fair piece was really good. And if you read the whole thing, you'll see the first set of finance people to deal with Epstein, they're like, who is this clown? He doesn't even own a computer. He has no idea what he's talking about when he talks about financial instruments. Totally ignorant.
Yeah, and he would go out of his way to make it impossible for like rich people that he had no interest in to like invest their money with him or work with him. So he would claim, like he turned down people who wanted him to manage hundreds of millions of their dollars, right? And he would argue, no, I only take clients worth $1 billion or more. Like he wasn't, in my opinion, based on those close to him who have put out statements, he wasn't actually managing people's money.
Yeah, if you only told me the Wexner part of this story,
yeah.
I wouldn't even necessarily assume an intelligence agency. I would probably assume the reverse. I would think Epstein ran it by himself. He got rich from Wexner, and then he realized, oh, this is a great scam. And then he did it to a whole bunch of people and got richer and richer and got everything he wanted until he got caught, right? And that is definitely still plausible. The part where it gets weird, guys, is when the American government goes, no, there were no clients.
Yeah.
Wait, that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
And under both Democrats and Republicans, they're like, we're not releasing the Epstein files, and we're not telling you about any of the clients. And then he's got a map of Israel sitting there, and then Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was one of the biggest Israeli spies of all time, stole US nuclear secrets and gave it to Israel, and that's why they have the nuke, right? And the prime minister of Israel goes 30 times, and anyone who talks about it, oh, no, you're not allowed to talk about it. Like their reaction to the story leads me to believe that it's an intelligence agency. But the Wexner one could go either way, the evidence from that.
Tonight, Vice President Vance will host key members of the administration to discuss whether or not to release the tapes of Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell's interview last month. The Attorney General, FBI Director, and others will attend.
Behind the scenes, there have been some conversations, these officials tell me more preliminary, about having Blanche do a press conference or even appear for a high-profile interview, including possibly with Joe Rogan. Again, they say that that is not decided.
Well, the Trump administration was supposed to come together for a dinner at JD Vance's residence tonight to try to get on the same page after weeks of inconsistent messaging regarding the Jeffrey Epstein files. And then they engaged in more inconsistent messaging with Vice President Vance outright denying that the dinner is even taking place. Now, before we get to the denials, let's get to the details of this original CNN report, which Fox News also had confirmed, by the way. So the dinner was supposed to include Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, Vice President JD Vance, FBI Director Kash Patel, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. And they were expected to discuss whether or not to release transcripts of the audio recording of Blanche's recent interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, the Justice Department has reportedly been digitizing, transcribing, and redacting more than 10 hours of interview material as they decide if and when to publicly release the information. Now, one official told CNN that some of the conversation within the White House has focused on whether making the details from the interview public would bring the Epstein controversy back to the surface. It never left, okay? Many officials close to Trump believe the story has largely died down. I would disagree with that entirely. Now, yesterday, Trump defended Blanche's recent interview with Maxwell and made a curious comment about protecting people who aren't involved with Epstein. Let's take a look.
Were you aware of and did you personally approve the prison transfer for Ghislaine Maxwell that your Justice Department?
I didn't know about it at all. No, I read about it just like you did.
And do you believe that she is?
It's not a very uncommon thing.
Do you believe that she's credible to be listening to? Your Deputy Attorney General sat down with her recently.
Well, let me tell you, he's a very talented man. His name is Todd Blanche. He's a very legitimate person, very high, I just a very highly thought of person, respected by everybody. And I didn't talk to him about it, but I will tell you that whatever he asked would be totally appropriate, and it's not an uncommon thing to do that. And I think he probably wants to make sure that, people that should not be involved or aren't involved are not hurt by something that would be very, very unfortunate, very unfair to a lot of people.
Right. I mean, Trump does have a great track record at protecting people who might be wrongly accused or wrongly smeared. He really doesn't want innocent people to be hurt in any way, shape, or form. He cares about that deeply. Anyway, Cenk, what do you think?
Yeah, no, it's over. What I mean by that is that means Ghislaine Maxwell gave no helpful testimony at all. It's a cover your ass procedure here. And so here's why, guys. So first of all, they're considering releasing the tapes. That means that the tapes helped Donald Trump. There's no way in the world they would even talk about releasing the tapes if they didn't help Donald Trump.
ABC News sources say that Ghislaine Maxwell did not say anything incriminating about Trump during her interview.
Of course, and and it didn't say anything true probably. Like it's not if she implicated the CIA or Mossad. It's not like they're like, oh yeah, we're considering releasing them. There's no chance. So it's going to be useless crap to help Trump, and that's why she was immediately after getting that testimony, she was moved to a minimum security prison. But the one that Trump talking about how Blanche did a terrific job, that means he got what he wanted out of the Maxwell interview. But the last part that you saw in that video is the nail in the coffin. He's like, this is going to help protect the people who were wrongly criticized. That was very unfair. Okay, so you weren't trying to get information to use against clients who did the rape. You were trying to get information to actually protect people who were part of the Epstein list. Okay,
yeah.
So not useless, counterproductive.
So people aren't buying it, and that's according to polling. So suspicious comments like what you just heard from Trump is probably why. And so according to the polling, 63% of Americans think the Trump administration is hiding information on the Epstein case. I mean, because they literally are.
Obviously.
Then you have 67% saying that Trump was once good friends with Epstein.
Well, I mean, that's 100, should be 100%.
Yep.
The other 33% just don't know.
And 71% say a list of Epstein's clients exists, according to a UMass Amherst poll. Those are the results of the UMass Amherst poll.
But mainstream media says that's a conspiracy theory.
Right.
Every article mentions it as a conspiracy theory.
Now, as I've said a billion times before on this show in regard to the Epstein files, I actually care less about Trump or, other individuals who might be implicated. I mean, I definitely want to know if you have people in our government who are literally disgusting predators and pedophiles. But what matters even more to me, right, is whether or not you have individuals in our government who have carried out those disgusting acts, and they're currently in power without any worry because they're providing cover for a foreign government that has that blackmail against them.
Yeah, look, that's by far the most important. Look, is it deeply problematic if our government is covering up for the crimes of very powerful Democrats and Republicans? Yes, hugely problematic, right? But what's a lot more problematic is if they're covering up for the abuses of the CIA or Mossad. Because if they're doing that, they're betraying the country.
Yes.
They're saying that means one of the intelligence agencies organized a ring where underage girls would get raped. They knew it, they organized it, they orchestrated it, they taped it, and they used it as blackmail for their own purposes. If you're covering that up, that's a thermonuclear situation. And that's why both Democrats and Republicans, and Democrats who hate Donald Trump, couldn't find Trump's name on the list when it's on there hundreds of times. Again, doesn't mean he did it, but he's enormously good friends with Epstein, so he's keep popping up in all the accounts of the victims. Oh, I saw Trump, etc., right? And so again, doesn't mean he did it. But the Democrats didn't use that against Trump.
No,
oh,
they
come
didn't.
on.
It's a distraction, Cenk.
Oh,
According to
yeah,
Nancy
come
Pelosi,
on.
Just a distraction.
Come on.
Just a distraction.
And then now Trump has the list of like Bill Clinton and the Democrats, and he's not using it?
I know.
Oh, come on. Nobody believes that. It's the intelligence agencies. And so this disgusting situation is a crime against America.
So real quick, going back to the dinner that may or may not happen tonight. So now the family of Epstein and Maxwell victim Virginia, I never know how to pronounce her name correctly.
Giuffre.
Yes, so Virginia Giuffre, she's a victim of both Epstein and Maxwell. And so her family members have come forward issuing a statement arguing that survivors should also be invited to this planning meeting with Trump administration officials. Let's take a look at that.
They say that they understand that the Vice President, J.D. Vance, is holding a strategy session this evening at his residence. They say, quote, missing from this group is, of course, any survivor of the vicious crimes of convicted perjurer and sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. They say their voices must be heard above all. And we also call upon the House subcommittee to invite survivors to testify. Now, that last notable because also we've seen how House Republicans have been handling this, calling on the DOJ to release the Epstein documents with a subpoena coming out from the House Oversight Chair James Comer yesterday. They are just saying essentially that in the terms of how the administration is handling this and also how Congress is handling this, that what is important to listen to here are the survivors and are the victims in all of this. And they say that that should be included as the administration is plotting what their next move is going to look like.
And oh wow, would you look at that? Now it appears that maybe this dinner isn't happening after all, because according to J.D. Vance, there will be no meeting. William Martin, Vance's communications director, says the CNN story is pure fiction. There was never a supposed meeting scheduled at the vice president's residence to discuss Epstein's strategy, even though Fox News also reported the same thing. Oops. Now, finally, I just want to touch on the possibility of the Trump administration unsealing grand jury transcripts from the Epstein case. Amid public pressure for more transparency, the DOJ asked 2 federal judges in New York to unseal the grand jury transcripts in the Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein cases. And according to a new court filing, much of what the DOJ wants the judge to unseal from the Ghislaine Maxwell grand jury investigation is already publicly known, so we wouldn't be learning anything new. But on Monday, the court revealed letters from 2 anonymous Epstein victims who actually criticized the Trump administration's approach and accused them of failing to prioritize Epstein's victims. Take a look.
Notably, neither of these victims opposes releasing this material, but what they're asking for is to make sure that victims are protected. They write, quote, why not be completely transparent? Show us all the files with only the necessary redactions. Be done with it and allow us/me to heal. Now, they're also criticizing the government for what they say is a lack of respect shown to victims, writing, quote, I feel like the DOJ's and FBI's priority is protecting the third party, the wealthy men, by focusing on scrubbing their names off of files of which the victims know who they are. They directly called out President Trump here, alleging that he was using thousands of agents to protect his identity and those of other wealthy, high-profile individuals. They also took aim at the current Justice Department, saying that it appears that it is more interested in talking with Ghislaine Maxwell, a quote, convicted imprisoned sex trafficker, than in speaking with victims.
I would like Steve Bannon to release his hours of interviews with Jeffrey Epstein. We might be able to learn something through that. I don't know why there's no pressure for him to do so. But one of the victims also wrote in her letter to the judge overseeing the case, Dear United States, I wish you would have handled and would handle the whole Epstein files with more respect towards and for the victims. I am not some pawn in your political warfare. What you have done and continue to do is eating at me day after day as you help to perpetuate this story indefinitely. Now, interestingly, both of the victims also expressed obvious skepticism that Epstein died by suicide. Cenk.
Yeah, this is why Americans have lost faith in their institutions. It's not complicated. Every time a poll like that comes out, mainstream media is like, I don't get it. What's going on? There's something wrong here. Yeah, what's wrong is there's cover up after cover up, and it's super obvious. You've got victims who are underage girls here. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about American citizens, okay? Oh, you're gonna get devastated by a hurricane? Oh, well, don't boycott Israel. Like, come on, right? There's 1,000 examples. You're not allowed to negotiate drug prices. What is that? That doesn't even make any sense. But no, everything's fine, nothing to see here. Just move along, cattle. And by the way, we're gonna steal all your houses soon, and private equity is gonna buy them all. And you're all gonna be renters and indentured servants, and you're gonna serve the powerful, and we're never gonna give you justice. I don't know why they lost faith in institutions. It's so complicated, no one can figure it out, including any of the journalists in media. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets its wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets its wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.